It is Sunday, the 11th of June, and I came into the back of the garden to read on a little bit because it ended quite emotionally, I thought. This last chapter I read, chapter 2 of part 7 of The Winged Pharaoh, written by Joan Grants. It's a memory of hers. It plays about 5,000 years after Atlantis fell, and it plays before the flood. And I came out here and I thought, well, no, I'm not going to read by myself. I'm going to read it aloud, and I just hope that the mobile network will work okay and that the rain is not too loud because the weather's changed here in Dorset. Chapter 3, Battle Against the ZUMA. When the cliffs are riven, as though the gods had cleaved them with a sword, we waited in the deep shadow of early dawn, where the cliffs are riven. The ruddy sky was penanted with clouds like smoking torches, flaring in the wind, as our chariots were drawn up in their battle line with the spearmen behind them and on either side. Then the chain of our hidden outposts passed down sword that Samak was coming, passed down word that Samak was coming towards us down the gorge, and our charioteers stood at their horses' heads, soothing them, so that they should not stamp or neigh, and so betray us. Muffled by the distance, I heard the droning of the ZUMA chant, as they marched to make their sacrifice to Set. Soon their blood shall match this angry dawn. Soon it shall fertilize these fields which they who lose it would have laid in waste. And there shall be a column of smoke and fire, not of a bloody sacrifice of cows to Set, but of their own bodies, which would have pillaged Kham, and now whose ashes shall mingle with our earth. As I waited in the center of the chariot line, I prayed to my father, who had been so great a pharaoh that I might wear his helmet worthily. Loud in my ears I hear the ZUMA's chant, and I knew that in a moment I must lose the battle line. Father, hear me, I am to die. If I am to die, let it be proudly and on victory. Then before me I saw his chariot, no longer empty, for in it he rode in splendor. And as their ranks advanced upon the plain, he waved me onwards, and I gave the battle cry, Atet and light. And the chariot of Atet led me, as in a wheeling wave we swung upon this mighty-footed host. Our chariots thundered to the charge, and we flung the first flight of our throwing spears. I saw one impale their high priest through the groin, and he died in the spouting of his evil blood. They tried to scatter before us, but from each side, like the two wings of a hawk, the ranks of our spearmen closed upon them. The chariot on my right was overthrown, the belly of the screaming horse split open by a sword. I saw a captain sever a Suma's head, and the blood upjetted from the empty neck before the body crashed forward on the ground. I saw a charioteer rein back his horse while the warrior leapt out to pluck his spear from where it was wedged between the ribs of a man who had fallen under the chariot wheel. I saw a young captain still fighting on, though his left hand was severed at the wrist. Then before me in the swaying press of men I saw Samak, dressed in the insignia of a king. He sprang on to the hub of my chariot, striving to cut me down with his sweeping sword. I drove my spear downwards through his throat, and its haft drank deep of Suma's blood, which drenched from his mouth and veiled the hatred glaring from his eyes that had hoped to see Kham vanquished. Now, if I die, I would have killed my enemy and tasted the strong wine of victory. I felt the wild surge of triumphal joy as when the cobra crumbled in my hands. I pulled off my helmet and let my hair stream free, so that before he died, he should know that a woman pharaoh was a greater warrior than a ZUMA king. When the ZUMA saw their king was slain, they became in rubble, without ordered rank, and tried to retreat to safety up the gorge, but their way was barred by their own soldiers, beaten back by Zap. Our chariots could not follow up the rocky defiles, so I halted them while our spearmen pursued the fleeing enemy. For nearly an hour the gorge echoed with a tumult of battle. Then again I heard our battle cry, and from the gorge came Zap in victory. I had been wounded after Samak's death, but when our chariots drew back to the plain, I had put on my cloak, so that none should see that I had been hurt. But now that the victory was safe, I looked at my wound and found a broken arrow through my left arm near to the shoulder. When Zepta came to tend the wound, he said that he must cut out the arrowhead, and asked me whether I could bear the pain or whether he should call a Horus priest. But I said no, that an arrow was a clean, sharp pain, far easier than the bearing of a child. Chapter 4. The STELE. Over 1,400 of our warriors had been killed. The severely wounded, who numbered nearly 500, lay on folded cloaks in the shade of the cliffs. I went among them with the healer priests and told them how their children would rejoice to know themselves so magnificently seared. Then I heard that Ma'atis was dead, killed by an arrow when 9 ZUMA heads had split under his mace. I said that he should have the burial of a prince and lie beside my tomb in Abidwa, where one day my body would be laid, both resting after battle in the light. Of the invaders, all were dead, save 300 wounded. Though of ZUMA blood, they should stay here until their hurts were healed, and then escort the embalmed body of their king back to his country, so that Zemak's people should see how a king returns when he has set forth to conquer the 2 lands. The 2,000 servants of their baggage train should be kept in calm for a year. They should work in the brick fields under the same conditions as our own people. This same thing we do to all prisoners of war, and when they return to their own country, they take with them a memory of the compassion of calm. There was little of value to us in the ZUMA encampment, except 480 horses, and they were all stallions, and 24 of our mares, which had been born of these captured by my father from Sadok, had been killed. In the evening, when the sun was low, the wounded were taken from the groves of trees and carried down to the boats to return swiftly to Ma'atatis. I was tired, and my wound was burning my flesh. I sat with Zep, leaning against the tree beyond the shadow of the cooking fire. He told me more of the battle. The ZUMA ranks had broken when they were surprised by his archers, and though some had stood their ground, many had fled, only to find their way barred by Ma'atis. I knew that Zeb's heart was sorrowful that Ma'atis had died, for they were long friends, closer than many brothers. I told him how my father had returned to lead us to victory, and that now Ma'atis followed him as in his golden chariot he outstripped the sun. And I talked to him of the days when we were young, of how, when we had first met, he had taught me courage, and from my anger, friendship had been born, of how he had saved Nea's life on a hunting expedition in the south, when a wounded leopard turned on him. And I said to him, the 2 who were once an angry child and a lion boy have become Pharaoh and a captain of captains. When I realized that I had given him the highest rank to which a warrior can attain, he tried to tell me of his gratitude, but I said, so often have you risked your life for me, and those I love. And he answered, but when you were a little girl, I gave my life into your hands, and now always it is there to do with as you will. And I knew that Zeb would serve me if I were not Pharaoh, but a herdsman child. All that night the sky was lit by the burning bodies of our enemies, and at dawn our warriors who had died in victory were laid in the earth that they had protected with their lives. Wrapped in their cloaks, their weapons in their hand, they slept the deep sleep that the body knows when it has released the spirit to walk in peace. And over their graves I spoke these words. Mighty Ptah, who gave life to these your children, welcome them back to your country from whence they came. Theirs was the scarlet of the god of warriors, and their swords reflected the light. Proudly they give, and splendidly they died, and the memory of them shall dwell in our hearts, even as they dwell in your country. And I decreed, to mark this resting place, a great stele shall be erected, and on it shall be carved, here lie the bodies of 1,486 warriors of Kham, who died to give peace to the 2 lands and to shield her from the shadow. And then shall be their names and mine, and the name of the time of their victory. On the 12th day of the 4th month of the harvest, in the 8th year of the reign of Zat Atet, Necht, Sekete, Ara, Mary Niet, daughter of Anubis, bearer of the golden lotus of wisdom, keeper of the scales of justice, holder of the crook and flail, ruler of the two lands, keeper of the boundaries of calm, Pharaoh. It shall be cut deep into the stone so that it shall endure through the span of many lives. And it may be that some whose names are recorded upon it will see this stele when they are reborn in calm, and they may remember and smile and say, once I was buried here. Okay, chapter 5 is the homecoming. It's getting a bit jolly, guys. Lovely Sunday.